My name's Ian, I like making cards, and today I wanted to create the Blight from Dead by Daylight and talk about his surprisingly deep lore. So let's go. In the early 1800s, in a small village, Talbot Grimes was born and raised. As a child, Talbot was well liked by most of his peers. He was extraordinarily bright and very ambitious. Even though he was extremely sociable, Talbot loved his independence and would often go exploring in the fields and forests near his village alone. On one of these excursions, he stumbled upon a field of foxglove. Instantly enhanced by its beauty, Talbot experimented and observed the beautiful flower, but was unaware of its deadly poisonous qualities. The following days he suffered through long grueling fevers and colds, drenched in sweat. But all he could think about, in what could have been his last days, was how fascinating that flower was. How such a delicate, tiny plant could have so much power. Eventually, he did fully recover from his ailments, but that day sparked something in him that would stay with him for the rest of his life. As an adult, Talbot went to the London School of Medicine, and later landed a position with the British East Indian Company, where he worked to become a chemist for 7 years. His continued fascination and research into human capabilities involving chemicals led him to create a chemical that would increase a worker's productivity while reducing the amount of rest that they need. He sold his chemical formula and was rewarded with a secret laboratory beneath a prison camp on Dyer Island, off the coast of India. There, Talbot was supplied with an endless number of subjects in the form of unwilling prisoners from the Opium War. This eventually led to the creation of a new drug that would allow soldiers to withstand greater amounts of pain than any normal man could. However, unlike his previous creations, the side effect of this formula had a tendency to send his subjects into a frenzied state, as they would uncontrollably murder entire villages, hanging people from trees and burning houses to the ground while barricading the doors, trapping whoever remained inside and showing no remorse or even acknowledgement for what they were doing. Talbot, though, never admitted to any wrongdoing, as he stated that he shouldn't be responsible for the exaggerated war stories. However, it turned out Talbot's previous formulas also weren't as perfect as he thought. In fact, it turned out that his drug that was supposed to increase efficiency in workers was actually killing hundreds of people who took the drug, as their bodies shut down due to a lack of energy. Talbot only found out after being kidnapped by outraged abductors, who took him to a gravesite that held hundreds of them. Wanting revenge and justice, they began beating him with metal pipes, only stopping when he seemed to have stopped moving and making sounds. He was then thrown into one of the graves and left for dead. The following hours blurred into days, as Talbot was shifting in and out of consciousness. In one fleeting moment of comprehension, he was able to crawl and fight his way out from beneath the ground, only to lie face to face to a hazel-eyed decomposing consequence of his actions. Unable to move any further, Talbot closed his eyes, seeking a sedation to the guilt he was feeling. When he next opened his eyes, he found himself being nursed back to health by a small community of monks, who reside in an ancient mystery school posing as a monastery. These monks have devoted their lives to studying ancient texts, and strive to expand the human mind. When Talbot learned of this, he couldn't help but wonder how much he could help the school in their studies with his mind-altering chemicals. His curiosity quickly turned into action, as he promised to help them as long as it took for him to fully recover from his injuries. Over the many months he stayed, he had developed yet another drug, but this one was different. This one was supposed to make up for all the pain and suffering he had caused to others. This drug was supposed to open up your third eye and let humans see beyond to other dimensions. But this discovery only fueled his obsession to try to find other planes of existence. As he increasingly became more erratic about his discoveries, his brain became more and more foggy over time, eventually getting to a point where Talbot couldn't decipher what was real and what wasn't, as his dreams and thoughts bled into reality. Most nights, Talbot would lie in bed staring at the cracked ceiling, only to see those same set of hazel eyes staring right back at him. However, there was something different about this night. This night, when he stared up at the ceiling, there were no eyes that met his gaze, but in place was a strong, thick fog that flooded and enveloped the room. Although unusual, Talbot was calmed by the coming fog and sank deeper into his bed. When the fog finally thinned, Talbot didn't recognize the ceiling he was staring at. It was made entirely of stone, as if the fog had wiped away the wood from before. When he sat up, he noticed the walls were changed too, as they had also been turned to stone. But the more he tried to remember what they looked like before, the farther away the memory became. Becoming more dreary by the second, he slowly slid back into his bed. But this time his back was met with sharp little needles, finally jolting him fully awake. But that's when he discovered that the room had completely disappeared and transformed into an endless sprawling field of green. But something stood out to him, a glowing orange flower, delicately placed in the middle of the field. It felt as though it was calling to him, reminding him of a long-forgotten memory, the foxglove he had been entranced by so long ago. Naming them the Pristella flowers, Talbot quickly found a way to refine their nectar and create one last drug, the Blight serum. Although having never injected one of his own serums before, something was particular about this one. It was as if the flower could control Talbot completely, as he violently injected himself with the serum over and over and over again. The serum's effect on his body were fast, as it changed his once dark red blood into a bright vibrant orange, and warped his skin into a yellow leathery hide. His bones shifted and twisted, making him lose the ability to stand up straight and forcing him to move in erratic and twitching bursts. But its effects on the mind was far worse, almost completely eroding any humanity or emotions that he once had, making him just another one of those frenzied soldiers that he had created from before. Even though the Blight's mind had completely turned to mush, there still remains a tiny bit of his former self that shines through the monster's form. He kept studying, exploring all that this new realm had to offer him. After all, this is all he wanted, to find another world, so similar yet so different from his own. And now he had it. Apart from the trials he took part in, the Blight had also found a way to reach the other killers in the dimension, often getting the jump on them as he injected them with the blighted serum to study their reaction to it, even if he couldn't fully process what he was doing or why. But even so, his body kept moving, and he kept using the nectar for all of time. I hope you guys enjoy listening to that story and watching my art. I'm really happy with how the card came out. Let me know if you want to see some more Dead by Daylight stuff, and I'll see you later.